Name and date of birth again?
Elias Morgan, October 12, 79.
You traveling alone tonight, sir?
Just me. Bus was late, that's all.
We'll verify and let you know. Appreciate your patience.
The exchange happened at exactly 1035 a.m. on a quiet Tuesday morning inside the lobby of the Denver VA Medical Center. Veterans filled the space, some moving slowly with canes, some seated in wheelchairs, others carrying wounds no one could see. This was a place meant for healing, a place where service and sacrifice were supposed to mean something. 36-year-old Rafael Mendoza sat near the front desk, waiting for his weekly physical therapy appointment, scrolling on his phone, focused on nothing more than getting through another painful session. What federal agents believed would be a routine verification that morning would soon become a nationally watched example of how military service, visible disability, and even blood spilled for this country don't always protect veterans from being treated as suspects in their own homeland. The entire confrontation would be captured by high-definition security cameras mounted above the lobby, recorded from multiple angles, with timestamps that would later be replayed again and again in a federal courtroom. And months later, those same few minutes would carry consequences so severe they would send shockwaves through federal enforcement agencies and end with a $21 sept million verdict. Before we go any further, take a moment and tell me where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments. And if you've never subscribed to this channel, do it now. Because this story isn't just about one man. It's about what happens when sacrifice isn't enough. When a uniform and a disability don't guarantee dignity. And when a veteran who lost part of his body for this country is forced to prove that he even belongs here. Rafael Mendoza had enlisted in the United States Army at just 19 years old, straight out of high school in Detroit. He grew up in a working-class family where both parents spent decades in factory jobs, teaching their children that hard work, discipline, and loyalty to country mattered. For Rafael, the military wasn't just a career choice. It was a path forward, a chance at education, stability, and a future that felt earned. From the moment he entered basic training, Rafael stood out. He pushed himself harder than most, completed infantry training, and earned his Ranger tab, something only a small percentage of soldiers ever achieve. He deployed to Afghanistan twice, serving in high-risk combat zones where every patrol carried the possibility of not coming home. He wasn't just present in those deployments. He was respected, relied upon, and trusted with the lives of others. On his second deployment, that trust was tested in the worst possible way. An improvised explosive device detonated beneath his patrol vehicle, tearing through steel and flesh in an instant. 2 of Rafael's fellow soldiers were killed on the spot. Rafael survived, but his left leg below the knee was shattered beyond recognition. In those chaotic moments after the blast, as medics fought to keep him alive, Rafael's military career ended and a completely different battle began, one that would follow him long after the war was over. Field surgeons worked desperately to save Rafael's leg. Over the next 2 weeks at Bagram Airfield, they performed 3 separate operations, hoping the damage could be reversed. But the blast had destroyed too much tissue, and infection set in fast. In the end, there was no choice. The leg was amputated, and Rafael's life was permanently altered in a hospital room thousands of miles from home. He was flown back to the United States and spent the next 8 months at Walter Reed Medical Center learning how to live in a body that no longer felt like his own. Physical therapy was relentless. Every step on the prosthetic brought sharp pain, and at night, the phantom limb sensations were worse. His foot felt like it was still there, still trapped under the wreckage of that patrol vehicle, still screaming in pain that no one else could see. The psychological wounds ran even deeper. Survivor's guilt haunted him constantly, replaying the explosion and the faces of the soldiers who didn't make it home. Sleep came in fragments. Loud noises sent his heart racing. Diagnosed with PTSD, Raphael learned that the war didn't end when he left Afghanistan. But he kept going. He endured the pain, learned to walk without a cane most days, completed his rehabilitation, and fought to build a life beyond the battlefield, even as the cost of that fight followed him every single day. After being medically retired from the Army with honors, Raphael returned to civilian life carrying both visible and invisible scars. He received a Purple Heart for the injuries he sustained in combat and was approved for veterans' disability benefits tied directly to his service. Using the GI Bill, he enrolled in college, determined to build a future that didn't revolve around what he had lost, but around what he could still become. His days were structured around classes, pain management, anxiety medication, and regular appointments to maintain mobility in the prosthetic leg that now defined so much of his daily routine. The Denver VA Medical Center became a constant in his life. Physical therapy wasn't optional, it was necessary just to keep walking. Pressure sores, swelling, and alignment issues with the prosthetic meant weekly visits. Sometimes more. The VA wasn't just a hospital to Raphael. It was one of the few places where he didn't feel the need to explain himself, where everyone understood what service had cost and why those costs didn't disappear with time. That Tuesday morning was no different from dozens of others. Raphael drove himself to the VA, arrived early as he always did, parked carefully to minimize the long walk from the lot, and made his way into the building at a steady but deliberate pace. He checked in at the front desk, received his appointment slip, and sat down in the main lobby among other veterans waiting for care. He had no idea that within minutes, that familiar space of shared understanding would turn into the most humiliating and life-altering confrontation he had faced since the war. Raphael was scrolling through his phone, checking his class schedule for the week, when he sensed movement in front of him. 3 people in dark tactical vests had stopped just a few feet away. The letters on their chests were large, unmistakable, and completely out of place inside a VA hospital lobby. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. For a moment, Raphael genuinely thought they must be lost. The VA treated veterans. You couldn't serve in the U.S. military without legal authorization. Nothing about this made sense. Rafael Mendoza, one of the agents, asked. Raphael looked up, confused but calm. Yeah, that's me. Can I help you? We need to see proof of citizenship. The request was so unexpected that Raphael let out a short, disbelieving laugh. I'm sorry. What he glanced down at his prosthetic leg, then back up at the agent. I'm a veteran. I served in Afghanistan. I lost my leg over there. The agent's expression didn't change. We have reports of undocumented individuals fraudulently using VA services. We need to verify your legal status. Raphael's smile disappeared. Conversations in the lobby stopped. Heads turned. Phones came out. I was born in Detroit, he said, his voice tightening. I'm an American citizen. I have a military ID and my VA healthcare card. That should be more than enough. It's not. The agent replied, Do you have a birth certificate, passport, or naturalization papers with you? In that moment, sitting in a waiting room surrounded by fellow veterans, Raphael realized something was very wrong. Raphael took a slow breath, trying to stay calm. Those documents are at home, he said. Normal people don't carry their birth certificates around. You can verify my records. My military service is documented. My medical file is in this building. He held up his military ID and VA card. The same credentials he had used for years without question. The first agent barely glanced at them. Those don't prove citizenship. The words hit harder than Raphael expected. Around them, the lobby had gone silent. Veterans in wheelchairs stopped rolling. A man with a Vietnam veteran cap stood up slowly, his voice shaking with anger. "What the hell are you doing? That man is a wounded soldier. Leave him alone." One of the agents turned sharply. "Sir, step back. This doesn't concern you. It concerns every veteran in this room." The older man shot back. "You're harassing one of our own." Raphael shifted in his chair, pain flaring in his residual limb. "So what exactly are you accusing me of?" he asked. "I'm here for physical therapy. I haven't broken any law. We're going to need you to come with us for further verification." The lead agent said, "You can cooperate voluntarily. Or we can detain you." "Detain me," Raphael repeated, disbelief giving way to anger. "For what? I can barely walk. I lost my leg serving this country. This is insane." The tension in the room was no longer quiet confusion. It was turning into open outrage. As the agent took a step closer, Raphael tried to stand, instinctively wanting to show his prosthetic leg more clearly, as if visible sacrifice might finally matter. The sudden movement sent a sharp wave of pain through his residual limb, and he winced, gripping the armrest of the chair to steady himself. "Don't touch me," he said firmly. "I'm a veteran. I have rights. You can't just grab people out of a VA hospital." "Sir, you're resisting." The agent replied, "That's only going to make this worse." At that moment, a VA police officer pushed through the growing crowd. Officer Thompson had worked security at the Denver VA for over a decade and immediately recognized Raphael. He positioned himself between the agents and the chair. "What's going on here?" he asked, his tone calm but authoritative. "We're verifying immigration status." The lead agent said, "This individual can't provide proof of citizenship." Thompson didn't hesitate. "That individual is Rafael Mendoza. He's a combat veteran. He's been receiving care here for years. I know him personally. What possible reason do you have to question him?" Around them, more veterans stood up. Phones were held higher now, recording every word. A loose circle began to form around Raphael. Not aggressive, but protective. The mood in the lobby had shifted completely. This was no longer just about one man. It was about whether veterans would allow one of their own to be taken without cause. Officer Thompson turned slightly away, speaking into his radio as he called for a supervisor. The ICE agents exchanged quick glances, clearly unsettled by the number of witnesses now surrounding them. At least a dozen veterans were filming openly. VA staff members watched from behind the front desk, their faces tense. What had started as an ambush in a waiting room was rapidly becoming a public confrontation they could no longer control. Within minutes, the chief of VA police arrived, followed closely by the hospital administrator. She listened as the lead ICE agent attempted to justify the situation, repeating vague claims about reports of fraud but offering no names, no evidence, and no warrant. The administrator's response was firm and immediate. "This is a VA medical facility," she said. "You do not conduct enforcement actions in our lobby during clinic hours. Mr. Mendoza is a documented veteran with a service-connected disability. His eligibility has been verified multiple times. We have independent authority to verify immigration status." The agent insisted, "Not here." She replied, "If you want to investigate, You submit a request through proper administrative and legal channels. If you intend to detain anyone, you present a judicial warrant. Otherwise, you are done. Her phone rang. She listened briefly, then looked directly at the agents. That was our legal department. Your regional supervisors have been contacted. You are being ordered to stand down and leave the facility immediately. The agents had no choice. They turned and walked away. Their mission collapsed in full view of everyone they had tried to intimidate. The moment the ICE agents disappeared through the lobby doors, the tension finally broke. Veterans moved in around Raphael, placing hands on his shoulder, offering quiet words of support, promising they would speak up if he needed witnesses. The older Vietnam veteran who had stood first reached out and shook Raphael's hand. "That was wrong," he said softly. "You didn't deserve any of that." Officer Thompson helped Raphael to his feet, moving carefully so he didn't put unnecessary pressure on the prosthetic. "You okay?" he asked. Raphael shook his head. "No, I'm really not. I lost my leg in Afghanistan, and I just got treated like a criminal in a VA hospital." "How is that okay?" "It's not," Thompson replied, "and this needs to be documented." Raphael eventually made it to his physical therapy appointment, nearly 40 minutes late and emotionally shaken. His therapist could tell something was wrong immediately. As Raphael explained what had happened, she documented everything in his medical record, noting increased pain, emotional distress, and the impact on his PTSD symptoms. That evening, Raphael called his parents. His mother cried. His father, a man who had worked construction his entire life without complaint, was furious. By the end of the night, Raphael made another call to a civil rights attorney who specialized in veterans' cases because he realized this wasn't just about him anymore. The attorney's name was Benjamin Cross, and the moment Raphael finished describing what had happened, Cross knew this case was different. "What they did to you is unconstitutional," he said. "You're a U.S. citizen, a disabled combat veteran, and you were receiving medical care in a protected federal facility. There is no legal justification for what they did." Within months, a federal civil rights lawsuit was filed. It named the 3 ICE agents individually, their supervisors, the regional director, and the Department of Homeland Security itself. The claims were sweeping unlawful detention without probable cause, racial discrimination, violation of due process, and specific federal protections designed to shield veterans receiving care at VA facilities. During discovery, the evidence became devastating. Security footage from multiple cameras showed the agents walking through the lobby, passing several white veterans without stopping, before approaching Raphael directly. No database checks had been performed. No investigation had been opened. There were no tips, no names, no evidence tying Raphael to any wrongdoing. Depositions made the reality impossible to ignore. When asked why Raphael had been singled out, the agents could offer only vague answers about general parameters, unable to explain what made a wounded veteran in a VA hospital a target except the way he looked. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Jurors watched the security footage over and over again, seeing Raphael seated calmly in the VA lobby, his prosthetic leg clearly visible, his military ID offered and dismissed, his pain evident when he tried to stand. Expert witnesses explained Fourth Amendment protections, reminding the jury that citizens cannot be detained or questioned about their status without probable cause, and that race is not suspicion. Veterans advocates testified about the sacred trust between the nation and those who serve, and how that trust collapses when wounded soldiers are treated as outsiders. When Raphael took the stand, the courtroom went silent. He spoke about Afghanistan, about the explosion, about losing his leg and learning to walk again. Then he described the moment in the VA lobby. They didn't see a veteran, he said. They didn't see my sacrifice. They saw a black man they assumed didn't belong. That broke something in me that physical therapy can't fix. The jury deliberated for less than 2 days. Their verdict was unanimous. The agents were found liable for unlawful detention, racial discrimination, violation of due process, and the violation of veterans' rights. Compensatory damages were set at $5. 4 millions. Punitive damages followed at $16. 3 millions. The total judgment $21. 7 million. The largest verdict ever awarded to a veteran in a racial profiling case. The consequences reached far beyond the courtroom. All 3 ICE agents involved were terminated. Their direct supervisor was demoted. Within months, new federal policies were issued, explicitly prohibiting immigration enforcement actions inside VA medical facilities without specific evidence and high-level authorization. The VA strengthened its own protections as well, posting clear notices at entrances stating that veterans receiving care were shielded from immigration checks under federal law. Raphael used part of the settlement to pay off his parents' mortgage, thanking them for the sacrifices they had made long before he ever put on a uniform. He donated to organizations supporting disabled veterans and created a small scholarship for young people from working-class families who chose to serve. He returned to school and eventually earned a degree in social work, focusing on helping other veterans navigate PTSD, reintegration, and the systems that often fail them. He still goes to physical therapy at the same Denver VA Medical Center. Same lobby, same front desk. But now, there's a sign posted clearly on the wall. This facility serves veterans. Immigration status checks are prohibited. Years later, speaking at a Veterans Day event, Raphael told the audience, "I lost my leg for this country, and I'd do it again because I believe in what America is supposed to be." But belief doesn't mean silence. When the country falls short, we have to demand better. So ask yourself this: what would you do if sacrificing for your country wasn't enough to protect you from suspicion? If visible wounds from war couldn't stop you from being treated as a suspect in the place meant to heal you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe, because sometimes justice only arrives when dignity is forced to have a price.